Photoshop is certainly the industry standard when it comes to working with bitmaps and photographs. I don't know of any product out there that even comes close to the capabilities of Photoshop and all the bells and whistles it offers. As such, it's not necessarily a cheap program. A subscription of just Photoshop runs about $21 a month, and that's on an annual basis. But most people purchase the Creative Cloud, which includes a lot of different products for working with multimedia, not just bitmap images, but also vector images, video, animation, print document creation, website creation, social media content development, and several tools for working with multimedia on mobile devices. It also has some tools for managing your files. That Creative Cloud license runs $54.99 a month on an annual basis. However, students and educators can purchase an educational license for $19.99 a month based on a year, or $239.99 one-time fee. And this is as of May 2023 pricing. Now that educational license does go up for renewal the second year to $29.99 a month. So let's take a look at what all you get in Creative Cloud, because I think that is the better purchase. This course focuses on Photoshop and using it to manipulate photographs and create bitmap images, but it's not the only tool in the Creative Cloud suite that does that. Lightroom and Lightroom Classic are used heavily by photographers, partially because they also offer some file management of photograph collections. And a lot of the stuff we can do in Photoshop we can do directly in Lightroom as far as manipulating our photographs. There's another product called Photoshop Express that's part of the suite, and that is for editing photographs on your mobile device, your phone or your tablet. It does not have the capabilities of Photoshop and is not suitable for this course. Let me repeat that. Photoshop Express is not suitable for this course. You want the full version of Adobe Photoshop. There's also another product that's not part of the Creative Cloud suite called Photoshop Elements. And it too does not have the capabilities of Photoshop. So do not get Photoshop Elements. You want Photoshop. There's also a product called Fresco, which is used on iPads and iPhones for both drawing and painting, or what we call bitmap and vector solutions. And then finally there's Adobe Express, which is used for creating social media content on your phones, and that includes both video, photograph, and drawing. Whereas digital photographs and bitmap images are comprised of pixels or a collection of dots, vector drawings are mathematically oriented, of drawing a line from one point to another point, and therefore they scale up much better than bitmapped images do. Adobe has some products in the Creative Suite for doing vectored art. The big one is Illustrator. You may have heard of Adobe Flash, and Flash was a flagship program for Adobe and was used for animating vectored images, but had a great drawing platform as well. Flash has been repurposed as Adobe Animate. Personally, I still like using Animate to do vector drawings more so than I do Illustrator, because I taught Flash for a number of years and I'm much more comfortable with Animate, and it's a little bit simpler interface than Illustrator. It just doesn't have all the bells and whistles of Illustrator. There's also Dimension, which is used for creating 3D artwork, and Character Animator allows us to develop a character that's vector oriented and to rig it and manipulate it using our web camera to do real-time lip syncing and facial movements. And we mentioned the Fresco product that's out there that allows us to do both bitmapped and vectored illustrations. When we talk about multimedia development, we have to include video, of course, and Premiere Pro is one of the best packages out there for doing video. It's used even a lot in the Hollywood industry. It allows us to edit video and do things like A/B rolls from multiple cameras and so forth. After Effects is also heavily used in the entertainment industry for special effects and doing things like green screen. Audition is Adobe's entry into audio editing. And of course, we've already talked about Animate and Character Animator that can output to video that would be vector-oriented creations, whereas video is primarily bitmapped. Premiere Rush is basically Premiere on your mobile device for editing the video that you capture on a mobile device. Does not have the capabilities of Premiere Pro. Adobe Express we've already talked about as a tool for creating social media. In this case, it can create video as well as bitmaps and vectors. And then Media Encoder is another product of Adobe for encoding video in different formats. I mentioned in the previous video that I use Photoshop a lot for creating print documents that make heavy use of graphics. And that includes flyers, brochures, newsletters, business cards. I'm just very comfortable working in Photoshop. But Adobe has another product called InDesign that is designed specifically for doing those types of projects. It is a replacement of an older product called PageMaker. And it works very well with Photoshop. You can create your graphics in Photoshop and then drop them into Adobe InDesign. Pretty much all the products in the Adobe Creative Suite do work seamlessly with one another. InCopy is a product for collaborating between writers and editors. We've all used Adobe PDFs. Acrobat Pro is the tool for creating those PDFs, and Acrobat Reader then also allows us to read those PDFs and to do things like fill them out and sign them. Similarly, there's a product called Adobe Scan that allows us to scan documents into PDFs from our phones, and Fill and Scan allows us to complete PDFs from our mobile devices. Dreamweaver at one time was probably the most prominent tool for creating websites and web pages. Adobe XD is a product for creating prototypes and wireframes and interfaces for mobile devices. Aero is a tool for creating augmented reality. And then we have a bunch of products that either work on the phone or manipulate our mobile assets. Capture is a pretty cool tool on our mobile devices that allows us to take photographs and turn them into patterns and brushes and color themes that could be used with Photoshop or Illustrator or InDesign. We've talked about Adobe Express as being a tool for creating social media content. Premiere Rush, doing video editing on our phones. Photoshop Express, manipulating the photos we take with our mobile device cameras. And we mentioned Scan and Fill and Sign as working with documents on our mobile devices. And the final category here are some tools in Creative Cloud that allows us to manage our files. Bridge is the main one, and it works really well with Photoshop. In fact, we'll talk a little bit about Bridge as we get into Photoshop. It's a really nice venue for viewing multiple images at once as they're in folders and working with those folders and tagging images. Lightroom and Lightroom Classic also have some of those same capabilities in terms of tagging our photos and filtering those. We've talked about Media Encoders as converting from one file type to another, primarily for video. Capture, we mentioned, allows us to create some assets for Photoshop as a pattern or a brush, and then InCopy for sharing information with others. And that might be used in Photoshop for creating a newsletter. So there's a brief rundown of what you get with Adobe Creative Cloud. I think it's a much better purchase than buying Photoshop individually or any of the tools individually. And all of these products are industry standards in multimedia and very powerful in their use. If you'd like to see more videos in the Photoshop Practicum playlist, click the title at the bottom. If you'd like to be alerted to new videos, please click my photo in the top right to subscribe to the channel.